Alrighty, hello everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hello, my name is John Hammond, which I'm sure you might already know, considering, hey, the YouTube channel that you're watching. But this is a special video. This is something new, and this is something different, because I am joined by my friend here, Christine. I am kind of approaching this as a cybersecurity guy, a cybersecurity person, and Christine is kind of joining this conversation as a recruiter, as a talent acquisition specialist, and as someone that's in the industry. And hopefully we can have a very cool conversation, ask each other a couple questions so we can break down the there's a lot of stuff to it, right? There's a lot of stuff to unpack between how does cybersecurity and our industry see talent acquisition and recruiters, and how does that look on the other side? How does talent acquisition kind of deal with us as people that could be hires or employees, employers, etc., back and forth? Disclaimer before we kind of dive into it: we don't represent our current employer, our company. We aren't trying to speak on behalf of anyone. These are just two people having a conversation together so we can all be a little bit smarter on this and help out the community. Hopefully you can get some gold nuggets out of this. But we've been trying to do this for forever, by the way. We've been planning this for months.
We have.
Yeah, every single time we've tried to record something, either something would go wrong, one meeting would come up, maybe there was a babysitter that wasn't there, whatever the case might have been. We couldn't get around to it. So I am very, very excited to do this. Christine, I hope you are too.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for doing this.
Cool. Should we just kind of dive into it? I can kind of kick off some questions.
Go for it.
Cool. So I'm hoping we can do some back and forth, informal, casual, just in getting to know each other and hopefully talking about good stuff that will be helpful for others, my community, your community, etc. My first thing to kind of get us started is, why are you passionate about what you do, about talent acquisition, about recruiting? What do you love about this stuff?
Well, that's an easy one for me. So recruiting really is, for me, it's a big puzzle. So I like solving puzzles, and every single one is a different puzzle. And so particularly with this, you're looking at who is the right person for the job, that's available and interested at that time. And also how could they potentially impact an organization? So really it's just putting those puzzle pieces together, and finding the people is a big challenge. Finding the right people is a big challenge. So it's fun. I like that, solving that problem.
Cool. That's very cool.
What about you?
Yeah.
Why are you in the field you're in?
Okay. So I really like computers, for one thing. That's probably pretty obvious, all kind of nerdy, geeky things. And I wanted to get into programming because every kid, they're growing up, they'd be like, oh, I want to make a video game. I want to hack computers.
Yes.
So I started to tinker with that, to explore that. And it was a lot of fun. It was just enjoyable. When it turned into more of the cybersecurity, I don't know, good and bad, not just make stuff, but break stuff, I just fell in love with how interesting it was and how curious it was. I feel like I like to understand things and know how things work. I'm very questionable. I am not questionable. I like to question. I'm just inquisitive. And I think that's been a really, really fun thing about cybersecurity, is that there's always something to learn and grow. And I'm always asking questions.
Yeah, I assume we have some similarities where each of your days are never exactly the same.
Yep.
And that's big for us as well. I mean, recruiting, although most people don't think that way, but recruiting has a really broad spectrum of what you can specialize in. And there's a lot to actually try on different areas. So yeah, cool. Awesome. All right. So you were nice enough to go out there and kind of pose your audience and ask them what questions they had around talent acquisition. And you had some really, really good questions, and you have a fantastic audience, a really, really engaged audience. So they posed some really, really interesting questions. Do you want to kick off with any of those to start off with?
Yeah, we certainly can. Let me provide a little bit more background and context on that, right? Because you and I have been planning to have this conversation for some time. And I put it out on LinkedIn. I blasted it on Twitter. I just screamed about it on social media. And the response was overwhelming. We have almost 250 responses. How many questions
Right.
that you want to tackle or I could tackle for both of us to address? And for one thing, I don't think we can answer all of them properly. And
Come on.
obviously, do you want to? Yeah.
No. No.
And obviously, I
No.
think a lot of them are very, very niche and specific.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really hard to address.
Right.
It's interesting because there's no one size fits all answer, but there are also a lot of broad strokes that we can kind of safely say. What do you think about that?
I definitely think so. I think some of the questions that popped up, particularly around certifications, degrees. Let's talk about that. Do I have to have a certification? Do I have to have a degree? Do I have to have a specific degree to apply for a job? There are a lot around those. And I think those that you really need to look at is not just that specific item, but also look at the companies you're looking to work for. Is this typical with their jobs? Do they all require a degree? Do they all require certain certification? Then maybe you want to go down that path. But there are some very specific ones that were asked that I don't think we can answer, but it's more of a broad topic when it comes to degrees, experience, and certs, because it really depends on that company and what they're looking for. And is that company a match for you? So that's one of the ones I want to talk about immediately, because I think that gets asked a lot. Do I need X, Y, and Z for a job? Well, I mean, it depends on that job and that company, what they're looking for. So that one is important. What about you?
Yeah,
What do you
I
think are the
pulled it
important
up on
ones?
the screen. I realize, I'm sorry, I don't know if you probably can't see it. You're just still staring at me, but I tried to bring it up so the video that we're capturing, we can see what some people might have asked. One
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting, it's asking, hey, are there any, obviously everything echoes what you had said. It's very specific. What about certifications? What about a degree? What about training? And that varies from position to role to company, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that someone asks is, hey, are there any entry-level positions even available, or is that just some myth? everything that I seem to see is asking about, oh, I need 5 to 10 years of experience, or I already need to be some seasoned veteran on this whole concept.
Okay. So there absolutely are entry-level positions. However, each company is different in the way they view entry-level positions. And let's take it a step back. So when we look at job descriptions as a whole, recruiters know it. Let's say it. Job descriptions suck for the most part. Whose responsibility is it to write the job? And the recruiter's typically the one that's posting it, but who's responsible for the data that's in there and making sure it's accurate and it's what's really needed for the job. So when you look at that, you may see things out there that really tell you that this job is not junior. When you see a job out there that's 3 years of experience and then they're calling for a CISSP, well, obviously that's not junior, right? We know that. That doesn't mean that recruiter knows that, but it got lost somewhere in translation. So there is that issue with job descriptions. What I would say from there, though, is that you need to look at a few things. One is just applying for the job the best way to get into an organization? And the answer to that is going to be no. We know that referrals, whether it's someone you really know or someone through a network that you know, is the best way. A social referral is the best way to get into a company. So I would go that route, and I would connect with people with that organization and find out really what's needed.
Cool. Do you think there are any other kind of specific ones we should dive into on that? Or a lot of these are asking, hey, what about different countries? What about even a different continent? And unfortunately, I can't particularly speak to that.
No, I can't either on that one. That one's difficult. There was one around knowing multiple languages. I think that's definitely a benefit to an individual if they know multiple languages. But I haven't seen a ton of requirements that require that, but that's just my experience. There was one around what would be your ideal candidate.
Oh yeah.
And I thought this was interesting because this is kind of a broader question, and I think there's several ways to look at this. One is, you know, take a look and Google yourself. Look at what you're putting out there as publicly available information. So what does your image say? Literally the picture you have. What things are you following publicly online? What does your LinkedIn profile say? There are several people that I've connected with that actually their profile talks completely about a different type of role, but they really want to be in cybersecurity. Well, if that's the case, you really need to move your profile to showing up as a cybersecurity profile, even if you're looking for an entry-level role. So the ideal candidate is one that, for me, answers the questions to make my job easier. And what is that? My job as a recruiter is to fill jobs. There are a lot of us that are really nice and will help people out and to try to provide additional information on whether it's your resume or resume building or networking or kind of like what we're doing here. But at the same time, my main job is to fill my jobs. So, I'm not the best for career guidance. If you want to start there, there are plenty of people out there, Katya Dean, are going to,